I went to see the new Spiderman No Way Home film this week.
What cinema did you see it in?
Saw it in Genesis in East London.
Is that one where there's no allocated seats and you just kind of have to bum rush in?
So it's good because the tickets are dirt cheap. They're about... How much are the tickets? I think it was...
When I went a couple of years ago, because I haven't been since then, it was four quid, I think. So $4.50.
It's gone up slightly. It's a £5 now, but still a bargain. But it was a bit of a nightmare because obviously, I think we was the 7:30 or something like that, and they closed the screen and then they got disinfected for COVID, and then by the time they were done, there was like the biggest queue you've ever seen, like waiting to get in. So
and you were already in?
No, to be fair, like we wasn't that keen. We weren't like keenos. Me and the guy I went with, so we did get like quite a good seat still, but the anticipation within the cinema.
But I mean, were you in the back of the queue?
Yeah, we was in the queue, yeah, but it was literally like stretching around the wall. I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, that is off-putting. Anything you go to where it's got a queue like that.
I knew there was big hype for this film, but I didn't realise how keen actual people were. But yeah, we got in, we got quite decent seats. There's decent screens in there, like I think we saw it in the same screen as you went to the film anyway. Like it's a great venue. Yes, it's a very good venue. It's just a bit far for me, but yeah.
So did the movie hit all the nostalgia points for you?
Yeah, it hit the right notes. Obviously, there's been a lot of, what do you call it? Like, best kept secrets about it that we won't go into. But, yeah, it did hit the right notes. I'm not a Marvel super fan, so what I always struggle with a bit of Marvel films, you know, if you haven't seen, like, one, like, for example, I don't think I've seen Doctor Strange. So I know Doctor Strange is, but there's kind of like references from that film in it, and I'm turning around to my mate that I'm with, like, what are they on about? Like, so he's like, oh, in Doctor Strange this happens. I'm like, oh, I get the joke now. So. To
be fair, they do quite a good job of, because I think they must know a big part of the kind of audience that are going to go see the tentpole films like Endgame and Infinity Wars and the original Avengers. You're gonna hoover up all the outskirts sort of audience that would just go to see it because it's the biggest movie out that you wouldn't usually get. And I think the Marvel franchise do a really good job of making all the movies in a way where even if you haven't seen something and something's referenced, it doesn't confuse you to the point where you're not following the plot at all. Like, you just always go with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, as I said, I'm not a big Marvel fan, but me not seeing one film didn't... It kind of like... you know what the Marvel films are like. They follow this sort of...
They got a tried and tested template.
They follow this formula where they have in-jokes about previous films and they're like all giggling and like...
See, I want to learn more, because I'm not a Marvel fan in the way you're saying, but I'm a huge... As in, like, of the actual movies or comic books in general. But the way they run it, like the way that franchise or company, whatever you want to call it, is run is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in film, where they have it down to such a... It's a brand they kind of have. And other directors step in. Kenneth Branagh will step in and direct 4, and another, like, you know, slightly interesting, not just play by numbers director. But they always have their innate style set in stone, and they even have other directors that will come in to do the action scenes in movies, and they're like little sub-directors, and they do all the action scenes in all the Marvel movies, so that even when you have different directors and writers, you have this uniformity through the whole franchise that you just don't see in anything else.
I think that's testament to the more than directors, like the script writers. They've just got the T to such a formula where they're like...
But again, they must have they must have I think they have, obviously, overall, like, screenwriters, different ones that are hired to different movies, but they must have a team of writers just doing the humour for all of them, because the voice is so similar from film to film. The tone is always the exact same.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Like,
whereas you look at DC's recent movies, you've got that terrible original Suicide Squad, and Jared Leto as that terrible Joker, and then you've also got the Batman coming out and the Joker coming out at the same time, and like the tone and universes are completely different. Nothing's joined up.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the cinema in general, like I always get excited for the trailers as well. Like, we had a trailer for the new Matrix. What's it called?
Resurrections.
Resurrections.
They've burned through nearly all the R's now.
This was Reloaded, Resurrections. This is a trailer that I haven't seen yet, and I'm not gonna lie, it was quite...
Matrix one?
Yeah, it was quite... It kind of put me off a little bit, like... It was
in what way?
It was quite corny kind of thing, like...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'll give you an example, like, there's one bit right at the end, you may have seen this trailer, you may not, where, like, Neo, like, pushes someone back and then he flies backwards, and he just turns around to the camera and goes, hey, I still know Kung Fu. And then it just, like, finishes, and I'm like, I was excited.
Keanu Reeves' delivery is probably better than yours, but still, I wasn't feeling that when you said it.
I was excited, as we discussed before in these podcasts, about the way they've marketed it, but now I'm seeing the trailers, I'm in an orange kind of
I had the exact same vibe, but I'm still definitely going to go see it, or pandemic willing, go see it, or watch it anyway, some way or another, when it comes out. But I don't, and do you know what one of my problems with it as well is even do you remember back in the day when you had Terminator 1, Terminator 2, unbelievable movies. Terminator 3 comes out, and it wasn't just that it wasn't a very good film. It was a terrible film in comparison with the other two. It didn't even feel like a Terminator movie. It felt like the people that made it hadn't seen a Terminator movie, and visually, like the colour palette didn't even look like... It was all bright, and like Terminator is supposed to be a lot of blues and dark greys, and that's the problem I have with the trailer of the Matrix so far as well, is it doesn't have that quality of a Matrix movie. You remember it was always that green hue on the Matrix, and it just looks sort of like any other action movie.
Wasn't there like the Terminator films after 2 were... I think there was one Christian Bale film which was alright.
Do you know what? Salvation.
Yeah,
I fucking loved Salvation. I never got the hate for Salvation.
But
it was like when they tried to bring in Arnie in the last third of the movie. The last third movie was shitty, but the world they created, why was there not a trilogy of that? With all the bullshit they make trilogies out of nowadays. That was quality. It was actually seeing the little human machine more.
But I was about to say that. Is that the same film where all of a sudden Arnold's back as like a young, like... Arnold.
He's like the original Arnold.
And then everyone's like, it was a nice gimmick, but you're like, at the end...
Like, we went nuts in the screen, I'm not going to lie, but...
Yeah.
But the whole third movie blew. Anyway, so go.
Sorry, back to Spider-Man. Yeah, so very good. It's actually quite a long film, to be honest. Like, because obviously everyone knows the formula, you got to wait to the end credits and stuff like that. It was like nearly 3 hours long, because when you wait for the end credits, it's 2 hours 45, and I actually overheard like one. It's quite funny actually, because I went out and standing by the bar. I heard one of like the people who cleans the cinema, like at the end, and he's like, "Fucking hate Marvel films because I'm always home late because I have to wait for everyone to watch the end credits,
God,
and then it drags on, and then I'm always home like late every time a Marvel film comes out."
That's so true. Because that's like, what other movies do people wait to the end of the credits?
Everyone's gone, and he's like, "I'm always home, knackeringly late." And
that is nearly like a fuck you gimmick. Of the movies, like they're actually they're probably thinking like, let's see if people are dumb enough to actually fucking wait an extra 10 minutes.
But it's quite good though, because
it's jokes.
I'm not saying that people will like read, but people will probably be chatting. But it's good that like in any other film, as you said, at least like the people who've done like stuff, like even the little stuff, like, you know, what do they call them? Like the guy who does the electronic
best
boy,
like that.
Like imagine they might actually see his name.
I never thought of it from that point of view, and that's actually genius, to be fair. But do you know, I actually do like it in a way. I like doing that for other movies. Like I hate when if you watch a shit movie, then fair enough, leave straight away. But you know, when you watch a fucking, like, say we'd seen The Revenant, and you're and the credits start, and you just want to kind of just bathe in the fucking movie for a minute, and just think about it, and just be like, oh, that was fuck, and just you still got the good feeling that it's given you, and so you're just like. But I don't like when someone just gets up straight away and you've got to leave.
Yeah.
It's worse in like normal cinemas. The nice ones where you get like a little couch and thing.
Yeah.
You're not in people's way as they're trying to leave, because that's what kind of pressures you a little bit as well.
But there seemed to be like in this screening that I saw, which was quite late. It seemed to be like, I don't think it started till like 9 or something like that. There seemed to be like a lot of very, very young kids. I think like 3-year-olds and stuff, which is fine and stuff like that.
3-year-olds,
4-year-olds, 5-year-olds.
Nah, that pisses me off.
Which like literally, and obviously it's probably like way past the time that they normally like go to bed, and like halfway through they're like, oh, can we go? Like just making like, and all the mums and dads are like, shh. Like, and you're like, oh, it's a bit annoying. Oh, do you know?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I don't know why they didn't take him at like 2, but yeah, that was kind of annoying.
No, yeah, like you can't. That'd be like if I had a kid. I don't know what it's like. Like you just don't. I get it's annoying if you want to see the movie and you can't get anyone to babysit. But there's certain things. If I had Tourette's and I couldn't stop making noises, I wouldn't go to the cinema.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Since it's opened, how much do you reckon that this film is raked in? And bearing in mind, this is in dollars.
Okay. So how much? And it's been out 5 days.
Yeah.
5 days. It's been out 5 days. We're talking international, obviously, and it released everywhere at the same time, I believe, more or less. So I'm going to say, what are the best films ever?
Go from there.
So a bunch now have made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 467 million.
Right. So, since it's opened 5 days ago, and this is the second best 5-day gross ever, the first one must be Avatar, isn't it?
I'm not sure if it still is. I think Endgame might have knocked it off its perch.
It is. So he wasn't too far away, actually. 328.7 million in 5 days.
Do you know what? I would take credit if it was in the same 100.
Yeah.
That's annoying. It's still whatever.
But by this figures, it might end up as like the top grossing film possibly of all time. Maybe.
Well, do you know what that means? We're going to see a lot more fucking movies where Marvel are doing fan service. Yeah. And just doing whatever the fans want. Or ideas anyway, like that. They're going to do shit that's just going to make you happy and nostalgia, and not necessarily what would make the most sense as a film.
Well, I read 2 things about this.
Which is great, I'm not against that.
I'm going to discuss them. So, obviously, there's a new film, what's his name, Del Toro?
Yeah.
His new film.
Oh, what's it called? Terror Alley? Something
Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley, yeah.
Right, so basically
That's good, it's like a film noir sort of movie.
So this is in America as well, like basically what's happening is people are trying to go and see this film. They're like, I want to see this. It's Del Toro, and it's got quite a good cast. I think has it got Bradley Cooper?
It's got a really good cast, yeah.
And basically what's happening is that when they're going to see it, number one, they can only find like one showing a day. And like some of them have gone to see it, and when they've gone to the theatres or the cinemas, it's been cancelled and Spiderman's been put on. And I read into it a bit. Basically, both films are owned by Disney, so Disney are like, Spider-Man's making so much money, like why shouldn't we just play Spider-Man and just keep smashing it? So everyone's getting really like angry. He wants to see Nightmare Alley, which is kind of annoying. Like
that's fucked up. It's so hard for any sort of original movie to make any money now.
Yeah.
There's no breathing space. And that sums it up most of all. Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, I know. It's like Disney are like playing themselves, but winning.
But the thing is, even the other big studio blockbuster franchises are just losing. Like, like the monster movie franchise with Godzilla and crossover with King Kong. I mean, I'm sure they made money, but none of them were like runaway hits. Yeah. No, like there was a 2-3 year period recently where the other studios have only had a couple of definite hits. Joker was one for DC. There'll be more. I don't think Godzilla made money, and all the others are Star Wars and Marvel, both owned by Disney.
Yeah.
Like Disney it's nearly becoming like fucking Microsoft back in the day where they had to break the company up.
Yeah.
They're too big, man.
Yeah.
It's just ruining movies.
But we went to see that Godzilla one, didn't we?
Oh, it was fucking awful.
And like,
no sympathy.
The thing is, we were so horrified by it. We thought, because we was in one of these nice cinemas, Everyman, so you could get like a drink to the seat. And obviously, our deal was that you had the membership, so I got in for kind of free because it's like 2 for 1. So I was like, about an hour in, we'd had about 3 pints because we was like, let's just get slightly more tips in, see if we can stick with it.
It made it worse.
Yeah, and we just went, I was falling asleep.
It was honestly, it's one of the, like, I don't like ripping into movies because it's so fucking hard to make a good one or even get one made. But it was one of those things where I can only feel like it was a lot of the story and creative decisions were being made by committee of producers or people not necessarily what were hired as the creative talent, because it was just so paint by numbers boring, and it was like they're not even trying to make a real movie. Do you know what I mean? It always feels like the movie within a movie, you know, where they always make it purposely more corny to set it apart from the movie.
I knew it was going to be shit when it had right at the start, because I didn't even look into who was in it.
Oh, the chick from Stranger Things.
And I'm just thinking, this is going to be bad, because they've just cast that as a recognisable, like,
100%. And she's a good little actress. I liked her.
Yeah.
But it was purely pick her
because she's popular.
Like they probably that was done on an algorithm of who would be a good person of that age to pick. That would be popular with popular culture.
Yeah, definitely.
Although she is a good little actress, but again, her point, she was that annoying character action movies sometimes put into the movie for no reason, where it's like, let's have an annoying kid fuck things up throughout the movie. Yeah. That has to be saved. It's like, no one likes that character. Fucking write it out.
But back to the trailers, I think we saw a trailer for, do you know, the new, again, Marvel. Like, every time, even when you go to see a Marvel film, you might see 2 Marvel trailers. Like, it's just their output is
They should just open their own chain of cinemas and just only show Marvel movies and leave the fucking other cinemas alone.
But we saw the trailer for Morbius. So it's the new Jared Leto. He's Morbius the vampire.
Okay, and this is Marvel.
And it's Marvel again.
One thing I do love about Marvel is the amount of quirky characters they have in the universe.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Like they have vampires and they have like aliens a lot and Howard the Duck and weird like characters like that.
But talking of crossovers, because back to your point about Marvel's gonna do like loads of crossover shit to please the fans. I read that they're looking into a Blade and Morbius like crossover, so I can only assume that it's Morbius the vampire versus Blade, which could be good.
So I don't know who the fuck Morbius the vampire is, but fucking Blade is the shit. Would it Wesley Snipes? Yeah.
No, it's someone else.
No, man.
It's got cast as someone else.
It can't be anyone. I don't care if he's like 60. It's got to be Wesley Snipes.
No, it's a young guy, man.
Fuck that, man.
Blade, the new one. Blade, new character. I didn't even realise Blade was Marvel until because I remember watching the Wesley Snipes one. I can't remember Marvel coming up in it at all.
But I mean, it wasn't when it was being made. Marvel wasn't the friend. Well, it wasn't the studio it is now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they're established and they have that really recognisable logo and branding. You say
about I know Wesley Snipes, but they've casted Mahershala Ali.
Who the fuck is that?
Who I think let's
Can you have a look?
You'll recognise him. Wasn't he in Green Book?
This geezer?
Yeah, wasn't he in Green Book?
Oh mate, this guy sucks, man. He doesn't suck.
Was he in Green Book?
He was in Green Book, but I haven't actually seen Green Book. He was also in, I can't remember what the fuck he was in. I recognise him. He's a very good actor. But no, he ain't Blade. He's no Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is a fucking G, man.
Imagine if they could, like, going back to the crossover, imagine if, like, it worked kind of like Spiderman and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden Wesley Snipes Blade turns up and shit. Like, the possibilities are endless.
Put him in the R-rated Doctor Strange movie that's coming out.
Yeah, you could
whatever. Or just have him... I could see him crossing over with X-Men.
I mean, I think the Blade films are violent as they was.
Oh, they were well... That's why as well, I was always a bit confused why... I guess it is... He's not technically a superhero character, but they always said Black Panther was the first black Marvel character. I guess he was the first superhero. But Blade is... I feel like in the Marvel Universe, Blade is a superhero, isn't he?
So what I like about the Wesley Snipes ones... Blade 1 and 2 are just both so sick.
Oh, they're brilliant.
I think Blade 2 could even be better, you know.
So do I. That's Del Toro.
It's kind of like. Do you know what it reminds me of? The first Blade is kind of like Alien.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like
a
bit more suspenseful and like a bit more horror.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously Blade 2. There's a new like breed of vampire that are killing the other vampires.
It really expands the whole world as well, and it's about bigger like set pieces because the budget's obviously bigger as well.
But what was my favourite scene out of any of them is what was the one where he goes into a club.
Yeah, the nightclub in 2.
Yeah, and it's so like dark, and all you can see is like between the lights, him moving around.
And it's got that like horrible German techno music bumping,
and they got the lights on their guns, and like it's just sick, man. I might watch that tonight. Actually.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Blade 3.
Shit.
Again, we spoke about Terminator early with a trilogy where the third one just completely changed the tone. It was too bright. It was too like the humour was corny. It wasn't as dark. It wasn't as brutal. It just didn't feel or look like a Blade movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. Actually.
I did like the final battle though.
Don't think I've ever seen that one.
It's worth a watch, but it's one of those things where the first two are class and then it's a big dip.
But imagine if like DC look at it. DC must be looking at this with like salting their wounds, like Marvel are slaying us kind of thing. We don't know how well the new Batman film will do. I assume that it's going to do quite well with Robert Pattinson in it.
I'm looking forward to it.
What surprised me, again, that came up as a trailer. It's just all the standard trailers. But it was so, like... Obviously, you've seen the new Batman trailer, haven't you?
Yeah.
I know it's like a totally new director and everything like that, but my thoughts were... It just looks so much like a Christopher Nolan thing. Do you know what I mean?
I disagree with you a little bit. I can see where you're seeing that. Maybe it's not even disagree with you, but my take on it is... This is exactly what DC should steer into.
Yeah.
Because once Nolan left, they had really nothing going. Nothing was cooking right, especially the big names like Batman and Superman and whatever.
Yeah.
They were making money, but the films weren't really being well received. Marvel just have it down. They have the tone in each movie is the same. The interconnection between all the movies and all the characters and the crossovers are handled perfectly and seamlessly. DC they've not been able to cobble together one universe. It's a bit of a mess. But when that fella who directed The Hangover, whose name I can't remember at this second for some reason,
Todd Phillips,
when he first pitched the Joker to DC, he said he wanted to make an entirely alternative dark universe. So it'd be a separate universe to whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
It basically be like if Marvel did a separate universe that was more set in the real world and a lot darker, and it was like dark versions of Spiderman, like basically the Joker.
Yeah.
But do it for Batman, do it for fucking Green Lantern, whoever the fuck else is in DC.
Yeah.
And at the time they were like, no, don't get ahead of yourself, shut the fuck up. Well, you can make the Joker, and he's made that, and it was their biggest success, especially in ratio to budget. It was fucking... That film was their biggest hit in years and years and years. And now they're making this Batman where, to me, it looks a lot darker than the Nolan ones.
Yeah.
This looks like... Nolan's ones were Heat.
Yeah.
This one looks like it's going to be Seven. Like, it looks like they're steering into the dark, and that's what they should... That's where they should go, because Marvel have the family version of a superhero. They have that whole market tied down. DC should steer into the dark, more adult movies.
But it can't. I doubt they can make it. What was the Joker? What was his certificate again? 12.
No, it was 18.
Think
about the level of violence.
It was. I mean, they're losing.
And I'm pretty sure this is going to be R-rated, the new Batman movie.
Yeah, they are losing quite a lot of like the younger market. But
you say that
it is like.
But the youngster market, let's say like under 18, actually younger market, they're gonna watch it some sort of way.
Yeah, yeah.
So they still want to see it, whatever. But maybe you don't get bums on the seats in cinemas. But the Joker played as a PG. What even would that movie be? Yeah. What's the appeal? What's the actual draw? Because they don't have the reputation that Marvel have. People know they're gonna get at worst a 3-star movie. Yeah, when they go to see a Marvel movie. Yeah. DC are all over the map. But if like people went to see the Joker because of word of mouth of like this is fucking good, and it doesn't censor and soften the edges in order to get under the PG rating. Yeah. So I don't like they'd lose money in a way, but like they'd gain it elsewhere.
See, I always get the thing is Declan. I always get bad vibes whenever the Riddler turns up, because wasn't it Jim Carrey in like one of the other ones? He was the Riddler.
He was atrocious.
Yeah, it was
do you know
so
what?
Bad. Like...
I forget about that. Doesn't bother me at all, just because he was not even remotely. He should any movie that character and that performance and interpretation of him would be and should be the worst thing in that movie. Yeah. But that movie was so bad, he was like maybe 4th or 5th on the list.
But Riddler's actually one of my favourite villains. Because,
he's a great villain.
Because like Batman, Batman's rich, but Riddler doesn't have any superpowers and he just sets like loads of traps for Batman and puzzles, which I find quite interesting.
Like, Paul Dano in the trailer, when that guy's, it's not even Paul Dano, sorry, but he's reading, the cop is reading the riddle that the Riddler's left at a murder site. Yeah. And it's so creepy, man. My
favourite thing is in one of the other trailers where it starts and it like zooms into the coffee shop window and then it kind of like pans and then pans out and in the coffee mug is the Riddler sign. I'm like, shit, this is fucking class. Yeah, man. And I read Colin Farrell's Penguin is based on someone from a film, whereas they've kind of, this is from the director in an exclusive interview with Empire magazine. Okay. And Robert Pattinson's Batman's based on a rock star.
Oh, Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I saw the headline.
So, yeah. So basically, they're basically on the lines of like, kind of like the hair, but obviously Batman or / Bruce Wayne kind of like going for that proper recluse vibe. Like he doesn't really want to be doing this. He wants to be left alone.
Do the real dark interpretation of it, Joker style.
And Colin Farrell's Batman is based on one of like, I'd have to look at it properly, but based on one of the enforcers in one of the Godfather films.
Oh really?
Yeah, they based him on. I think the big huge guy. Holy shit. Yeah, so it should be sick, man. I didn't even recognise Colin Farrell when I saw him.
I know, fucking hell. Like... And do you know what? Colin Farrell does not get anywhere near enough credit for the kind of roles he takes. Like I don't think he's not really known as a chameleon sort of actor. Yeah. But he takes loads of random roles. He's never the same one role to the next.
I mean, the only way that they could like usurp Marvel in this would be, in my opinion, because I saw the film yesterday. You know, when you see a film yesterday, you're like, I just want to speak.
Recency bias, but go ahead.
Recency bias. I won't do any spoilers or anything like that. But I reckon they could trump it if at some point in this movie Joaquin Phoenix turns up as the Joker. Imagine that, like you just like Batman's just doing something and you just hear the laugh, like
and do it Batman. I don't care if it's a complete copy. Yeah, do it Batman Begins style, where in the last second you get a little clue that the Joker's going.
Not a big part in the film, but like maybe at the end or something. Like imagine that, like. Yeah, that'd be so sick, man.
Just do it like they tried to do in the shitty Justice League ones, where the Joker's Hannibal Lecter and he's in Arkham Asylum. And he's going in to like question him about the case and get his perception on it.
But I think that's when was the Joker at the Joaquin Phoenix one release?
2019.
I think that is like, sometimes I think back about the films I've watched and I don't even think about favourite films. I boil it down to like favourite scene of the year. Oh, yeah. And my favourite scene of 2019 was him dancing in the bathroom.
Oh really?
With that music, like that's so sick.
My one, without a doubt, from that movie, but also probably from that year, maybe other than 2019, 2016, whatever that movie was called, the scene where he assassinates Robert De Niro and the whole build up to it, and then immediate fallout of it. There's like, you see a lot of amazing movies, but when 99% of the amazing movies you see are on the TV or on your laptop because they've already come out years ago.
Yeah.
And you don't always even... The great new films that come out, they don't come out every day. It's quite rare. And you're lucky to see them in the cinema because you might be... you don't get to see every movie that comes out either. So you don't always get that experience. But that is probably one of the all-time scenes I've seen in the cinema where it's just captured the whole audience. Like, there's no one... like looking at their phone, no one sort of looking around or thinking about something. Everyone's fucking hypnotised to it. And do you know what was interesting as well is how split the reactions were, because it builds up, it grabs hold of you as it's building up to the assassination, where the conversation's getting weirder and weirder, and Robert De Niro's starting to turn on him. And when he shoots him, half the audience gasped and were like horrified, and the other half of the audience, including me, jumped up and like fist pumped.
Well, yeah, that's
and it was that moment of, why do I relate to that? Like, what is going on there?
Kind of breaks down society a bit, like the Joker versus the rest of the
world.
Man. So yeah, that was powerful.
Unbelievable. So what do you reckon if DC tried to do something similar to what they've done with this new Spider-Man movie? Say like in Batman, you've got Michael Keaton slapping George Clooney around the back of their head, and then Robert Pattinson flies in.
I reckon it would work, but I think you're right about DC. I don't think they've got it down to do it.
DC wouldn't have the confidence to do that. Like,
I've just thought back, like, that DC do like a lot of mini series. Like, I think they got the Titans, they got the Flash.
Okay.
And then Michael Keaton's like turning up in the Flash as Batman. So like,
oh really? So there's a president already.
Yeah, they're trying to do it basically, but.
Oh, that's well interesting. Because I thought this was pure, like, just chat.
So there's a trailer for the trailer for the Flash. I've never watched any of it. I'm not really...
I don't give a shit about the Flash.
I'm not really interested in, like, DC miniseries or something like that. I know Marvel's tried to do it with some, like, Daredevil, which I never really watched.
It's supposed to be good, but there's so many shows, like, I'm not wasting on that shit.
Basically, and then apparently in this trailer, like, for, like, 10 seconds in it, Michael Keaton's as Batman. So they're trying to like implement it, but
dip the toes in as well. Like.
I just think it's going to take them years to get on Marvel's level, if that's even possible.
I honestly think just don't even try. Like, do your own thing. Marvel have their formula down. Create your own formula.
Yeah.
Create a dark universe.
Yeah.
And whatever you can say in terms of like the Marvel movies are amazing, especially the big ones like Infinity Wars and whatever. But on some level, I'm not even going to say it's a better film because it's objective, but the Joker is respected as a movie on a different level. And I don't... That shouldn't matter to studios, but in terms of if that can become your brand, you're the arty fucking side of it. Marvel can have the popcorn and the blockbusters and 4-year-olds annoying you in the fucking screening, but... if they go in that direction and just make it fucking grotty and dark, and they're not always it'd be very hard for them to all be as good as the Joker, but set that tone that people know, okay, this is what I'm getting with a DC movie.
That's definitely going to reignite the debate of DC versus Marvel, which has been raging this whole time.
Well, I don't think there's a debate. Marvel shit on them
right now, but I think like it would do the debate of, do you want to watch the dark side or do you want to watch like the Marvel films where there's like nice funny in jokes? I know I'd be going to the DC side
because
straight
that's
away.
what I mean. You create the perception, like what people associate you with, and that becomes, it's like iPhone and fucking Android back in the day. That was a real, people just like picked their side and was like, fuck it, I'm only buying this now.
And for me, it's not just that, Declan. Like, I prefer like, this might sound a bit snobbish and highbrow. I just prefer the filmmaking craft in like the DC stuff, like the trailers. You like, for Batman with the rain lashing down, it's all dark and moody, the cinematography and stuff like that. I just prefer it to like the Marvel
for
way.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you have to pick the right ones because they're all over the shop in terms of quality. Like,
true.
They have Nolan Batman movies and then Joker, and then they've also got the original Suicide Squad, and then this, and they need to.
Good point.
They need to keep it at there's got to be a threshold for how good these movies are supposed to be.
I mean, I haven't watched Zack Snyder's Justice League cut simply because it's like 5 hours long, and I just haven't had time to like.
Zack Snyder's a funny one. I loved his original Dawn of the Dead remake, and I appreciated what he tried to do with Watchmen. And do you ever have someone where for some reason you just will him to be good?
Yeah.
And I'll see his movies still, and I never enjoy him. I just never do. But Justice League, I don't know. There's something about his movies where it's kind of, it appeals to a certain amount of people. So fair enough, he's obviously doing something right. But it just seems fucking lifeless. His Justice League movies.
To be honest, going back to the Watchmen, I don't think there's any director that could have done it better than him. I know that all the endings were changed and stuff like that, not towards Alan Moore's graphic novel, but I think he did do a good effort, kind of.
The ending change was perfect. It was actually absolutely. It would have been. You're already trying to fit in so much information for the viewer. It would have been way too distracting to go on that subplot, and they brought it back round in a way that made actually nearly more sense. Yeah. In a way. Yeah. Not to say it was a better ending, but it literally made more sense of the plot. It was more tied in together. But the problems I had was I felt like he just didn't get, like, anything above a superficial level of the characters. It just seemed like Night Owl. It's a whole big thing that he's given up on him, and he doesn't believe in that superhero bullshit anymore, and he's impotent. Like, he's kind of going through life lifeless, and that becomes amplified or shown when he literally is impotent when he tries to shag a woman.
I forgot her name.
And that was a really poignant moment in the graphic novel. And it was, while at the same time, Ozymandias, whatever the fuck his name is, was performing these amazing feats on television, physical feats. And it was obviously showing, it was making a point. And then in the movie, it was just like an American Pie scene, where he came, and then it kind of made funny music or something and just cut away from it. So I felt like he just didn't, even Rorschach, I felt like it was just kind of like base level. But what a hard movie to make.
But moving on.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the new Robert Eggers movie, The Northman, that the trailer dropped this week. And it's got a good cast. It's got Alexander Skarsgård. Remember, he was It. Pennywise the Clown. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy, who was in The Witch as well. William Dafoe's coming back from The Lighthouse. And this has been the number one movie for about 2 years that I've been looking forward to the most by far. I was a huge fan of The Witch when I saw it. A couple of years ago, my brother introduced it to me. And it was one of those things where I was popped into his house and he put it on because he'd seen it the other day and he was cooking. He was just like, oh, check out this movie. I was going to leave like 5 minutes later, and then I was just glued for 2 hours. Yeah. Fucking so intense. Lighthouse even more intense. And I'm really interested to see how this one's going to turn out, because the Lighthouse budget was 11 million. The Witch budget was 4 million. So he's gone up in steps, but small budgets. And also, if you think about his movies, very small locations. The Lighthouse, one location, the whole movie, 2 actors. Small story. Not even a story, cohesive story, really. This one, it seems like it's a $60 million budget, first of all, so it's 6 times the size of a budget he's ever dealt with before. Much more expansive, big cast. Looks like the story's much bigger and more ambitious. And I'm really curious to see, can what made his first movie so good, which was, the sense of tension, can he translate that to a much bigger, broader movie?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to say that, going from first impressions of what you've seen from the trailer, are you excited?
I don't really. Do you know what? I am, but not in the way, say, like, even though it ended up being a terrible movie, Godzilla King of Monsters, that trailer got me fucking jazzed up. And that was a terrible movie. This one I'm super excited for, but the advert didn't make me any more excited. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean that was my feeling when I watched it. It looks beautiful. And I was more, to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about if I was going to like it. I was more trying to work out I was more interested in the fact that he's got a much bigger project this time, and you can end up. That's such a difference in just you might be shell shocked suddenly dealing with 5 times the amount of crew you worked with previously.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that could throw you off your game, and then maybe you've got too many. You're not used to having all these stars, and you're a bit daunted. And one starts saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this," like halfway into the shoot, and that all those things can affect you. And great directors can flop. You've seen it time and time again when they go up in budget. John Carpenter he was always best at a lower budget. Because all his big budget movies tended to flop for one reason or another and set his career back. But I think this is going to be fucking sick. What did you think from the trailer?
Yeah, so I was trying to piece together kind of like what it's about. I take it like they're kind of Vikings. It's kind of like, we don't know that yet. It's kind of like they're going from town to town kind of thing. I'm
going to assume it's going to be an incredibly simple plot, but the gist of it is it's a revenge story set in Scandinavian times during the Viking era, and a guy's avenging his mother. I think his mother's taken prisoner or killed as well, but he's avenging his father, trying to capture his mother, and he wants to kill this guy, and he repeats it in the trailer. So that pretty much tells you, okay, this is what the movie's going to be. And beyond that, I think it will be a very simple plot, and it will be a lot more set pieces and tension and this, that, and the other. Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere looks great from the trailer. I kind of get like Robert Eggert, yeah? Yeah. Is that how you pronounce it? Eggert's. Egg Boy. Eggy Boy. Obviously, The Witch, great film. Lighthouse, I really enjoyed. I fucking loved it. Very, very trippy, but very, very good. He's the kind of director that excites me. There's only one other director that excites me the same as him, and it's the guy that obviously done Birdman and The Revenant. Like, I don't know if he's got any new projects on the go. I need to look into that. I can't remember now. But I remember, I'm going to compare it to The Revenant simply because of the setting and stuff like that. But I remember watching The Revenant in the cinema with you, and I wasn't necessarily like, to be honest, I wasn't necessarily like too focused on the plot. I was just in awe about like the cinematography. It was just incredible. Like it was the like the style of storytelling as well, where it was so, all those beautiful long takes. Yeah. And it's that weird thing where it's nearly like if you've ever done mindful walking, it's just weird the way you kind of like move through the scenes. Yeah. And move through the space as well. Like you have a much more sense of it actually happening. In the environment, rather than cut to this close up and then cut to this wide shot and all that shit and all those ways they cheat the viewer. I mean, it's not going to be like that because we know from him his films are very claustrophobic and tense, so it's going to be different. But it kind of give me those vibes in the cinematography and the kind of like trailers, the way they're on horses and like going about. But my first impressions were, well, you can't judge from a trailer, but it looks fucking incredible. Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, like I'm buzzing. So you going to hit or miss? I'm going to hit 100%. Which for critics or financially? I think both for this one personally. I can't see it. I don't know. My guess is financially first. It's gonna do okay. Somewhat it's going to make its budget back. Yeah. It's not going to be a flop, but it's not going to be a runaway success. But critically, I'm not too sure. I feel like it will be. I feel like this might be one of the lesser rated movies in his whole career. Yeah. Just because I think there'll be amazing moments in it and amazing styles to it, but I just feel like it could be a transition film for him. And like I said before, like handling the bigger budget, handling a different kind of storytelling, you're having to hit actual beats and have multiple characters and subplots going on, much bigger budget. I feel like it could be a transition film for him where there's flaws in it because he's learned on the job, and then he'll do more movies like this of the same size and same cast and same sort of similar bigger expansive movies, and he'll just knock it out of the park time and time again. But for this film, I feel like it could be a very flawed masterpiece. See, I got a question for you.
this might sound quite far fetched, but do you reckon if he smashes it out, because this does have, you know, relatively well-known actors,
huge actors, William Dafoe,
huge
Nicole
actors
Kidman,
dealing with egos. Do you think if he smashes this, he could be in line to do a Batman DC film?
I don't think he would, but obviously I can't speak for him. But I don't know if he.
It could work.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like,
it depends.
Very gritty.
I tell you one thing. I feel confident saying it would need to have in the equation is it would need to have been set in at least the 20s, or something. Because one of his recurring things, and probably his biggest strength in terms of movie making is absolute freakish attention to detail in information and research about the time period. Whatever he's doing, because all of them he's done, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same for this Norse one. He learned so much details about, like in The Witch, he went into like years of research just figuring out what their accents would actually sound like, so that was all authentic. And it created it in The Witch, and it created it in his last movie in The Lighthouse, where you feel like William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, those were two motherfuckers from that time. It felt like that time. Everything, the set, and just the way they did things, and the things they had to do, and their opinions and views on stuff, and the little phrases, you feel like you're in that world. So I couldn't see him doing a movie like that unless it was maybe, I don't know. I mean, is there any DC characters set in the...
What about this as a premise then? Because I know Penguin, Oswald Copperpot.
Is that his name?
Is his name. What if he takes off, like, and is seen as like, oh, what a villain by this betrayal by Colin Farrell. Imagine if that does so well that they do a spin-off origin story of the Penguin, of how he become the Penguin and shit like this. I know that's set around the 1920s.
Oh, it is?
Sort of, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Do you reckon that could work?
Look, they'd find that if he actually wanted to do it. Yeah. It's an interesting one. I just wouldn't... I don't know if he'd be... He seems like he's got his thing.
Yeah.
And he'll probably just do his thing forever. I don't see big details. Like, directors like that. Like, Quentin Tarantino's got his thing. He threatened to make a Star Trek movie for the longest time. Yeah, he said he wanted to make a James Bond movie. But I think deep down everyone knew that was never going to happen because he's got his thing. Yeah. He couldn't go and do not his thing for a movie.
Yeah. So I reckon... Yeah, I'm going hit in both categories.
Cool. I think it will conflict with critics, but fans will generally... It will be seen as like a flawed masterpiece, but the kind of movie you'd go back for the incredible heights it hits in certain moments. Yeah. But it'll be a transition movie for him, and I think commercially it'll do alright.
Yeah.
It'll make its budget back.